No.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Zero Interest. We've agreed to
Yeah.
not do numbering the episodes for these because there's no point, so we're just doing RWBY episode 9 and 10. Yeah, 9 and 10. The Badge and
Yeah.
the Burden. Two-parter.
Mhm.
So, as usual, take it away, Zero.
So we start with Weiss sleeping very soundly, and then Ruby shows up and just wakes her up in the rudest way possible. Just right in her ear, blowing that loud
With a sports
whistle.
whistle, yeah.
And it's like, we gotta go decorate. And she's like, what? What? Why? We gotta decorate now. It's important and clean. Okay. And so they go about decorating and cleaning all joyfully and
They do.
happily.
All of them having
And
their own particular additions to the room.
like the Achievement Hunter poster.
The Achieve Men boy band poster, which is a real poster. Just want to throw that out there.
Okay. That's merchandising.
Fair play.
It's like in Spaceballs where they go into the bathroom and there's Spaceballs of toilet paper, and you're like, well, okay.
Yeah. Mary says Weiss puts up a painting of
Yeah.
Forever 4 because she's artsy and shit and cultured. And
Yang puts up the Achievement
Achieve
thing.
Men poster, yeah. And Blake sneakily puts some romance novels on the bookshelves. Ninjas of Love.
She's like, oh, put this right here and nobody can see. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, that's fun. One thing I did note, I've noticed throughout just the course of this episode in general, before I get further in, they use a lot of Blake and Yang to kind of support Ruby's comedy. They're like a big trio of fun-loving people.
Yes.
Ish, but that's the impression I've been getting, because they go with the bit consistently and cheer. They seem to be like Ruby's peanut gallery, and it kind of this is my first complaint, and it's probably one of my only main complaints, is that kind of goes a lot against the first impression I had of Blake as a character.
Yeah.
Is that she goes along with it. I feel like Yang, she could totally go along with it, and I feel like it's in character. But considering that when we first met Blake, she was the bookish, more standoffish character, and she's just, I feel like there's just some sort of gap or character development that was supposed to happen there that would lead her to this point. But I don't know. Maybe I was just wrong about this character.
I'm honestly not sure, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, yes, she is... Generally speaking, her character is consistently the standoffish character. You get the impression that she is only not like that with Team RWBY, but there's no real explanation of why in particular.
Yeah,
At least not this early. It happens later, but it hasn't happened yet, so it's a little odd that she's very into it immediately.
Yeah, it just felt like a very weird jump for me. And I think that if they'd spent more time with Team RWBY throughout the course of these already 9 episodes, we could have seen more of that. But they haven't. So
yeah, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, Team Juniper is basically the other Team A, and it wasn't intended to be like that originally, but it kind of happened during writing. And again,
So,
because the creator and the writer are actually characters voicing those characters. So
yeah, there might be a little bit of favoritism going on.
A little bit, and as a result, there's not as much time spent on developing Team RWBY as there probably should have been as the main characters, as the literal title characters.
Yeah. If they, I feel like you could still have them both be Team A, but you need to slow down your pace a bit if you're going to do that. Or at least, have each episode revolve around a certain character rather than just kind of briefly touching on every character in most of the episodes.
They do that in the future, and they definitely do that in season 4. But this was more of an ensemble thing for the time being in the first season.
Yeah, this early on, it just I'm glad to hear they improve at least. So that's like, we have no space because they just threw everything into a big pile after decorating on the ground. It's like, well, we should just make bunk beds.
Says RWBY.
And I'm instantly thinking of the Step Brothers scene of where they run to their parents like, we want bunk beds. We'll have so much room for activities.
And I didn't see it, but I'll take your word for it.
They're two grown middle-aged men who are stepbrothers, and they run to their parents' bedroom. It's like, we need to make bunk beds, and they crappily make bunk beds. And then they go to bed, and the guy gets on top, and it falls onto the guy on the bottom bunk. It's like, no!
That doesn't happen, but based on how the bunk beds, air quotes, how they look, considering they're being supported by a pile of books on one side and nothing on the other.
Yeah, there is. It's like we tried to make it into a hammock by tying ropes to it. We'll see how that works.
Yeah.
Luckily, at least these guys have aura, so they can survive. But boy, would that suck if you were not ready for it.
Yeah, nope, would not be great.
So it's like, oh, hey, and we have a 9 o'clock class, and Vice is like, well, it's 8:55, you dumb. So let's go. We should all wear watches from now on. And then they run, and then John's team is like, oh, wait, it's also 8:55. We should run too. And I'm like, that's like half the class.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so they all run, and then they run past the headmaster who does the drink thing again. Can't hold his arm like this. Has to do it like this. Boy, do I love Poser.
Yeah, that's great. Also, remind me to turn off my email client after we finish recording this episode.
Oh, you having pop-ups?
Da-da-da-da. In my ears. That's going to be on the recording. You're welcome, Internet.
Well, we get to class, and we have my favorite teacher, the mustache teacher, also known as Pringle Man in my mind.
Yes, the creatures of Grimm have many names, but I merely refer to them as prey. Ha ha! Ha ha!
He's Pringles Man.
Okay.
He doesn't talk, his mustache moves.
Okay.
He's
Real
Pringles
quick,
Man.
We're going to do the thing that we talked about before on previous episodes. Who's he based on?
Okay, a famous general, I do think, or president. I know a lot of people who, in history, who look kind of like that.
Okay. The characters are usually, almost always, based on storybook characters. Or things in that general area.
What, is he the huntsman?
No.
I could buy that, but
His
no.
first name's Peter.
Wait. Peter. If it's Peter Pan and the joke is that he got old, then...
Peter and the Wolf.
I actually don't know that.
It's literally the story he's telling during the class of how he captured a beowulf and managed to keep it caged.
Peter and the Wolf. I don't know that story at all. Well, I wouldn't have guessed that in a lifetime.
Fair play.
It's
still the game. We're going to keep playing it, so...
I am not going to win at all during this game. I'm going to lose every time.
I feel like you're going to get one later, trust me.
Probably. But if they keep being obscure as Peter and the Wolf, I don't think I will. So then it's like, oh, our place is one of 3 safe havens, by the way. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Here's a quick little bit of world building. And then
it's our place and 3 other safe havens, by the way, just to clarify. There's 4 of them.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Then he's like, oh, hunters and hunteresses, and he looks at Yang like, and she's like,
Yeah, fun fact, in season 4 we learn that he and her dad are friends, which makes it even skeevier in hindsight.
But you know what? For a guy with a mustache that glorious, you know, she should consider her options, I say.
Mustache rides for everyone.
So Ruby literally can't sit still in class. Shocker. Proceeds to do everything from drawing to picking her nose to balancing stuff on pencils. And boy, it's Vice, who was, just kind of bored and listening to it, is now starting to get kind of frustrated because Ruby's their leader.
Yeah.
That's your leader. Your leader is picking their nose in class.
A true huntsman must be honorable. A true huntsman must be dependable. A true huntsman must be strategic, well-educated, and wise.
It's an interesting character thing because worth remembering that Ruby got pushed ahead. So she is 15, and she's an immature 15 at that, in a class filled with... I didn't go to busy on Skype either. I know, I'm terrible. I'll fix it next time. Filled with 17, 18-year-olds, all basically university age. So they've kind of got that, screwing around in class thing out of their system, more or less.
Yeah.
And are a bit more serious business about everything. And she's just not there yet.
Like, I understand where her character's coming from. I understand that it's completely in character for her to act like this. But boy, just imagining it from Vice's position, you've been working your entire life for this and training and studying, and then you get assigned to a team led by a 15-year-old who's picking their nose and drawing in class. So...
They were put above you.
Yeah. That's legitimately, that would feel unfair.
Yeah.
So, the Pringles man is like, okay, so who among you is the best of the best to fight and stuff? And Vice is angry, so she's like, me? And he's like, well, I got this beast in this cage, and I'll just let it out, and you can fight it. And that's...
Point of order. And this is actually kind of important going forward, and why this is significant, and why Professor Port is supposed to be pretty much a badass, even though he just looks like an old man.
Mm-hmm.
The way the Grimm work, they do not stick around. If you kill one, it dissolves. Fairly rapidly, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that he managed to not only subdue one, but subdue one while keeping it alive and managing to cage it and keep it caged, they could also just die and stop and disappear. So the fact that he's managed to keep it there and use it as a demonstration in class is actually pretty badass.
I tell you, it's the mustache, Gives him all his powers. He's like Samson. You shave that mustache off and he'll lose all his strength. It's his weakness. I'm convinced that mustache is actually part of his face and not just hair. It's actually facial features at this point.
Could be.
And then the episode ends right before he cuts it loose.
Yeah. Evil eyes in the cage.
Then we move on to part 2, where we have our lovely RWBY cast minus Vice cheering for Vice. And again, Blake is holding flags, and I don't understand.
Go Vice! Fight well! Yeah, represent Team RWBY! RWBY, I'm trying to focus. Oh.
Yeah. Still a little weird.
Yeah.
They went for the comedy without thinking through character first. It's fine.
Yeah, and I prefer comedy that really does play on how characters work more so.
Like,
but
if she was more like, yay, Weiss, go.
that would still be funny.
Yeah.
You know, it just wouldn't, like, it would actually add to her character and show how she stands out from the other two. But whatever. You can't always get what you want.
Yeah. Also, if it came off as a little sarcastic, it would actually play very well into her character later on. Like, if she was like, yay, Weiss.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay. Let's see. And so they're rooting for Weiss. She's getting a little bit irritated because RWBY keeps shouting commands at her and other things and is really interrupting. It's like the only person who's...
Not to say commands, but suggestions.
Yeah, suggestions.
Like, RWBY's trying to help, but Weiss is taking it as this 15-year-old who has been picking her nose and doodling in class is telling me how to do the thing I've trained to do my entire life.
Yeah. And that's why... That's like... It's part of the reason why I like Weiss is that you can really trace her line of thought. It's when she's upset or angry, it makes sense. It's not like she's just mean to RWBY because she's a mean character and brah 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 brah. It's no, literally, this is what I'm having to deal with right now, and you can kind of understand that. Also, the Pringles man gives live commentary, and it's the best.
He is one of the commentators for the tournament arc. I just believe you should know that.
That's okay. Good. I would watch a Let's Play commentated by him.
Have you ever heard of Achievement Hunter?
Yeah. I might actually... No, I'm literally like, I might actually check out Achievement Hunters and more Rooster Teeth stuff. Because of this soul guy.
Yeah, it's Ryan Haywood. He's been in a lot of their stuff. A lot. He also does streaming, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Let's see. Basically, Weiss ends up beating the wild hog Grim that's charging at her.
Yep.
And
the Sonic,
she's...
warthog. It's called a Bulbatusk, by the way, just saying.
You're going to say these names, and I'm going to name them myself.
I know.
I'm
I'm saying for the audience. It's trivia.
So,
that's my job. I know things.
Okay. I was just thinking about a name for a later monster I was going to give. So, basically, she beats him, and then it's like, yay! And Weiss is like, I'm upset. She burst out and said, I don't take orders from you, and in the middle of class. And John's like, oh, what's with her? What's her problem? And so, like, we go to them after class, where RWBY's like, hey, I thought you said we were going to be, like, teammates and teamwork and everything. And Weiss is like, you're acting like a child. You know, you're not really being a good leader. I think that Ospen made a mistake putting you as leader.
I've studied and trained, and quite frankly, I deserve better. Ospen made a mistake.
And you have just, she leaves and she's upset. And then RWBY's upset. And Ospen shows up and he's like, well, that didn't go so well. And so Ospen's like, well, I made a lot of mistakes, more mistakes than anybody else in the world. And I'm just like, well, that sounds very ominous. And he's like, but I don't think that making you the leader was a mistake. You know, it was literally one day that passed. You're good. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if you made more mistakes than every single person on Earth, this could be one too. You're not exactly helping your case.
It's not a great track record, yeah. And
during the middle of this, we're smash cutting over to Vice, and she's talking to Pringles Man. She's like, "Hey, I really liked your lecture," and he's like, "Oh well, that's good. You are a good huntress. Yes, yes." And she's like, she's troubled, and he's like, "Confess to me your strife."
Dear girl, confess to me your strife.
And I'm like, I love this guy so much.
It's a good line.
Yeah. And so he's like, yeah, you're not helping by being a little bit of a brat. If you throw a tantrum, you're not going to necessarily change anything. You're just going to make yourself look worse, basically. So you're going to make your team look worse. So be the best person you can be. And I'm like, this Pringles Man is so knowledgeable and wise. And
Drop in the wisdom bombs.
yeah. I mean, he's a little bit creepy, but so are most wise people. So it works out. He's balanced. Yeah. You savor what you can. You be the best person you be, not the leader. So we go over to RWBY, and she fell asleep studying because she wants to try hard to be the best leader she can. Because now she's all pumped up because it's more than just about her. And then Vice is like, hey, how do you like your coffee? It's like, what? Shh. How do you like your coffee? It's and she gets a little bit mad. She's like, oh, cream and 5 sugars. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of sugar. And so...
She has a sweet tooth. It's a thing.
Yeah, I don't drink coffee, so...
Coffee's terrible.
It is. I wouldn't know, though. I haven't tried it.
It's terrible. I can understand why she would want 5 sugars. It's bitter as hell. It's disgusting.
Yeah. And she basically says, you know what? You'll be a good leader. You have what it takes, I think. Also, you're wrong on that problem. And also, I wanted bunk beds as a kid. Always. And I'm like, you're still probably contending for, like, the best character in the show at this point, Vice.
Okay.
Like, she's getting a lot of... She has a lot to her character, I feel like. A lot more than a lot of other people at this point in the show. Yeah. So, that's about it for that episode.
Yeah,
and that concludes the two-parter of The Badge and The Burden. Thoughts would be... Like, there seems to be kind of a cycle of they get mad, or RWBY does something stupid, Vice gets mad, Vice is like, oh, I'm wrong, and she apologizes. And I'm hoping that it doesn't just continue to be a cycle like that. Okay, good. Because, like, at least, like, it makes sense in all this context so far, but if they keep doing it, I can see it getting boring in the future. Or just kind of like, oh, again, really. Aside from that, you have a quick action scene. It's done well. I'm still gonna say Ozpin's drinking his tea or whatever like this, or coffee is. I don't understand who, like the pose. I know it's Poser, but I'm always going to find that funny, and I'm always going to laugh at it. Aside from that, really, like, the first part doesn't have much happen, but the second part is really where we see more characters and stuff, and it feels like Yang and Blake really are getting pushed to the side.
Blake's stuff comes in at the end of the season in the last 2 episodes. Yang doesn't have much character to develop until later events that haven't happened yet.
All right. I feel like we have our 2 main teams, but there's only really 2 people on each team that really gets development. And so it's like you have Jean and Pyrrha, and you have Pyrrha herself, we don't get too much from her, but you have Jean, and you have Vice, and you have RWBY, And a lot of the characters we get some parts of, but we're not really getting in there yet. You know, this is relatively short into, like, considering how long the episodes are, this isn't that far into the show. But yeah, I've already seen the next couple episodes. We'll be commentating on those next week. And I really don't have too many final thoughts to say other than the live commentary summary I've been giving so far, because I think I'm integrating this better. I don't know. I mean, animation-wise, it's still fine. I mean, there wasn't anything glaring that stood out as problematic. And it's fairly decent couple of episodes with the best man with a mustache there is.
Yeah. Some good character drama going on in this episode, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably... I'm not sure whether it's the best episode for that, but it is definitely up there. And the next two are way worse for it, but we'll get to that next week and the week after.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's it for now.
That's pretty much it? Okay.
Yeah. If you have anything else to add.
Not really that springs to mind. I mean, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Like I say, you're right about the characters. Only very, very few of them getting the spotlight, and then everyone else getting pushed to the wayside. It's hazard of having such a short amount of time for the episodes, for the entire season itself. They don't have time to develop all of these characters that they introduced so rapidly. It's just not a thing that they can do. So they do only focus on, I'm going to say 5 characters really get the spotlight, and that's pretty much it. So it's just Ruby, Weiss, Blake, Jean, and Pyrrha, and that's pretty much it. Everyone else is there for comic relief or to drop wisdom bombs, as Professor Port decided to do.
Is his name really Professor Port?
Professor Peter Port.
Port. He is a portly gentleman.
All right, so I guess that does it for this
yeah.
episode. We'll be back next week with the next episode, which is episodes 11 and 12, Jaundice.
Yeah, that's a disease.
It is. That's the one where you get, like, yellow eyes or something, right?
Yeah, it's not
or
good.
Yellow skin.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's eyes, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah,
right.
So we'll be back next week with that
Bye.